Here we go. Okay, Facebook Live is setting up. We are live, y'all. Okay, so I am so excited for today. Thank you extra to Sarah and Laura. Not only did you spend your weekend coming to LifeSurge with me, you actually paid money to go. Like we're so nerdy to like spend our weekend doing business development and learning and actually spending money doing that. It was like 11 hours long. I have 17 pages worth of notes and just an overwhelming amount of, oh my gosh, I need to share all my everything with everyone. So thank you, Sarah and Laura, for coming and also for agreeing to come online and share your nuggets and your ahas because I feel like a lot of us are excited for next year, and a lot of us are tired and we're burnt out and we're looking for purpose and we're looking for, I don't know, not a sense of identity, but something. Good morning. And so I really feel like I walked away from that meeting saying, I feel more clear. I have more clarity of who I am and what I want and how I can tie my faith and family and fitness and fun and finances and all my things together. And to see people who were traveling the world who were very, very business, we'll talk about who they were, business savvy. And I mean, they're multi-millionaires. And they were able to live big and bold, not only in business, but also in their spirituality. Yeah. And God's able to use them no matter who big or however small they were. It was empowering. So I just want to have this as a platform for us to share our notes and then for y'all to also share your takeaways or ways that you can implement this in real estate. So thank y'all for being here.
Yeah, so I think let's kind of give everybody, if you didn't see the ads for the event, so you kind of know like high level what it was. So, and I'll tell you like what I thought and what I expected, because that's always an interesting thing whenever you do spend money to go to anything like Build or Cabo. This was kind of like a mini one day. Or if you want to, you're thinking about going to EXPCon or something like that, and you're not sure whether or not it's worth the investment. I was a little bit concerned about that because a lot of times with these events, it feels like they're trying to sell you a lot of things or some kind of program. And I think that there is always an element of that. Even when you go to EXPCon, I don't think that our company does. Um, they're not bad about forcing things down our throats, but I think in events like this and Build, you do kind of get that sense sometimes. So, the advertisements were like it's kind of like a Christian Jesus who rah rah with like business advice, right, Amanda? I mean, when you kind of say that's kind of the and motivation, right? So I did not really know or have any concept of what to expect going into this because I am probably one of the few people, maybe not, maybe everybody can raise their hand. Like I didn't know who John Maxwell was until about 6 months ago. So I don't know if anybody else either doesn't know who he is or had never heard of him until like the last year. A lot of realtors have been loving him for a long time. And I'm like over here going, I don't know who this guy is. So apparently he's like really old now and he's written, how many books did he say? Do you remember, Amanda? It was,
95 books.
yeah, 90 books, y'all. So,
Total
um,
for a decade. Like he's my leadership coach, hands down. And I didn't know who Ed Mylett was. And apparently people are like, oh my gosh, Ed Mylett will be there. And so we've all
yeah. Yeah, so I was a little bit drawn in by I wanted to know who John Maxwell was and what's he all about that everybody like raves about. And then the Duck Dynasty people were there. Well, only the son and his wife. So those two things kind of drew me in. And then there were actually though those were not my two favorite. So I don't. Do you want to go kind of speaker by speaker and let's like give them they can get the Cliffs Notes. So y'all are pretty much going to get like I think the tickets ranged from 50, 40 or $50 to like 400. So we're just gonna like give you all a free $400 like VIP seat, I think is kind of what I'm thinking, right, Amanda?
wrote, baby.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so what was the name of the first speaker? Because I didn't write that down, but he was the first one to talk about how, for some reason we think that we go to church on Sunday and then we go to work on Monday and it's almost two different identities or people. And he was the first one to really tie in the four stages of spiritual leadership and that minute you can do ministry from anywhere. You don't have to be a preacher to be a successful, human, if you will. You can be a successful realtor and also minister. Do you remember
Was that Joe Johnson? Oh my gosh, my thing is being ridiculous. Was that Joe Johnson?
the first speaker?
Yeah, he was like the leader or founder of Life Church or something.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So Joe Johnson is the I think that yeah, yeah. He is the sorry, I was like I started actually reading the book. So he writes a letter in the book too. So I was like, yes, no, that's the name. Because I knew it started with the J and I just forgot. But he is the he's the man who invented the Bible app. He also is the founder of Life Church Bible app. Actually, it's the one that's on your phone. It's free, and it has reached over 1 billion downloads, which was very like to me blew my mind because I've had it on my phone for years now for like quick reference, and then I have like my it has like the scripture of the day and stuff like that. So I like reading that, and I'll pass it along sometimes like through social media. But he had some really great nuggets, and I think that's what you were starting to say, Amanda.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine? And it's free, 1 billion subscribers. I'm like, if you just charged $1 a month, we would all pay $1 and you would be so rich. But yeah, so and I spammed Jeff with this yesterday if he's on here. And this is probably like the most like tactical, boring, if you will, one, and then they all get to be hoorah. But it talks about the 4 stages or phases of like Christian leadership. And he says the first one is spiritual prompting, and it's the whole idea of pay attention. Have you ever had like this like feeling of, oh, I should go talk to him, or I should reach out to them, or I should probably say something, or I should start that project, or I really feel passionate about, you've got this prompting of something that you feel like you should really do, but you don't really know why you need to do it. And the whole concept is if you don't pay attention and really listen to that opportunity, it could pass you. Like maybe God opened a door, and if you just like don't do it, he could close that door. And so the first one, spiritual prompting. My big takeaway was just like pay attention to the spirit. And then the second one, which I love, because I'm a planner and I'm a control freak and I want to know everything that's going to happen before it happens, so I'm prepared, is certain uncertainty. They're like, as soon as you decide that you're going to open that door and talk to that person and reach out to that, client or whatever you're being prompted to do, start that new project, you'll certainly have an uncertain moment where you're like, I don't know what to say, and I don't know why I'm here, and I don't think I'm capable. I don't think that I'm qualified. Like we've got all these like, oh, I don't know if I should even do this, right? What did I get myself into? And the whole concept was trust the process. Like if you're really saying that you live by faith, it's okay if you just take the first step. And one of my favorite things that he says is you don't have to have faith to finish something. You just have to have faith to start it. And that's big for me because I know all of us set really big goals. And then we're like, we don't know how we're going to sell 100 houses or recruit 1,000 people or do whatever big, crazy goal we came up with for our vision board for next year. But just having the trust, the process of having the faith of knowing the first step and then the next step and the next step. I thought that that was really huge. It says
He,
if you're not living in a little uncertainty, you're not living in faith.
yeah, and he also said, you can make excuses or you can make progress, but you can't do both. I think is something like that. You can't do both at the same time. I liked that he repeated that certain uncertainty a lot, and also taking that first step, that taking that first leap of faith. I don't remember what examples. He was at the very beginning, but I think for me, kind of high level is if you look back on your life and you realize how like one little choice can create a domino effect, and like you don't know, and this could be with your clients, this could be with your family, this could be with a stranger, right? That you see at Walmart. You don't know how that one thing that you feel led to do, like you feel kind of like the Holy Spirit telling you to do something, either to go up to somebody and speak or give them something or just say something encouraging, that you don't know how that could completely change their life. You don't know if that could lead to, big examples that are super impactful, like maybe somebody's thinking about doing something really serious like kill themselves, and like you have the courage because you see a look on their face and they need somebody to give them something positive in that moment. Or maybe you'd say something to somebody else that gives them the courage to impact another person's life. And I just thought that was really powerful because how many times do we stop ourselves from saying something that we feel is on our heart, and we let our minds kind of overcome what our heart is telling us to do? And to me, that's the Holy Spirit, right? And we're called to be obedient, right? And if you hear that and you feel that, you should act on it. You shouldn't let, I don't want to say the devil win, but like he's winning when he's stopping you from doing that. So He was, to me, he was kind of that whole, how do you get the ball rolling person? Maybe that's why he went first, right? To just kind of do whatever or say whatever, like take the leap of faith and don't hesitate. Just act with certain uncertainty, which was really, really cool to me.
Yeah. So if you're a planner, that's really hard to do, but it's really important to do. Uh,
Yeah.
the third one was predictable resistance. When you step forward, the enemy steps out. They only defend when approaching. So if you live by the status quo and you're normal and you don't really get out there and grow and talk to people and do all that, you're not going to have that resistance. And if you think about us, we're always talking about we want to make impact. But if you really think about impact, impact is two opposing forces smashing into each other, right? And so something that he said that really hit me was if you're not ready to face opposition, you're not ready to be used by God. Like if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? And so that was something that I carry with me of, yes, you know what you listen, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna reach out to this person or help this person, and then I don't really know what to expect, and then it gets hard. And typically when it gets hard, we're like, oh, it's not meant to be. And so we just stop doing it because it's hard. And at the other side of that resistance is kingdom impact. And so that was the fourth stage was kingdom impact. And I'm like, if we would have given up on, this is awkward, or I don't want them to think I'm a weirdo, they told me no, we probably wouldn't get to that fourth step, which is kingdom impact. And it says none of this happens unless you take that first step of faith. And that's taking a step out of being in your own head, being, having insecurities, limited beliefs. And he said, every time I go to do something big and scary, whether it's talking on stage or reaching out to someone or calling a client or whatever, I physically take one step forward. And that is me like subconsciously taking that forward step of out of my own head into faith, into my calling, into my purpose. And I thought that was powerful.
Yeah. Actually, I think he turned out better than we thought, just like from the beginning of this conversation. So that was all pretty cool.
And the whole concept was plant seeds. We're always like, oh, we're waiting on God to give us all this stuff. And he's like, I gave you so many resources, right? Have y'all heard the story of like the flood that was coming? Like let's say a hurricane was coming and the guy's in his house and he's like, oh, God's gonna save me. Have y'all heard that story? And the whole concept was like, he's like, oh, God will save me. And I don't know, we've got what do they call it that come in with the boats and they save people?
The Cajun Army?
Army comes and they're like,
Asian Navy.
Hey, whatever. Yeah. Thank you. That would make sense. They're on boats. Whatever. Just ignore me.
What in my boat? Let me save you. And like, oh no, God's gonna help me. Like, we're good. It's gonna be fine. And then like the water rises and they get on their roofs and then a paddle boat comes by. Hey, hop on in. And they're like, oh no, God's gonna save me. I'm fine. And then a helicopter comes to save me. And then they drown and they go to God and they're like, why did you let me drown? And he's like, dude, I sent the Cajun Navy, I sent a paddle boat, I sent a helicopter. And like sometimes there's all this stuff and support in front of us, and we're like, and so the whole concept was you can't harvest what you don't plant. So if you get resources, you need to plant as many seeds as possible to grow as much as possible, to be able to give as much as possible so we can continue that cycle. And so that was really powerful of just plant seeds. You
Is
don't,
he, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
Is he the one who talked about the seed being like in the crack of the concrete?
No, that was last week, but it was really impactful. So I don't know if
Oh,
yeah, we talked about that with Wade. I don't know if you guys have ever seen like a concrete, and then there's like a piece of grass just growing in the middle of it, right? It didn't ask for permission. It didn't wait for the perfect environment. It didn't wait until someone said, "Oh yeah, like let me help you out." Like it just knew what it was supposed to do, and it didn't know it was hard. And I think that that's something that next time you see a weed, you're going to be thinking about that. Uh,
yeah.
but I love that you're no longer walking by sight, you're walking by faith. And then we all know that scripture, you are the way, the truth, the light. Like he's going to light our path for us, even if it's one step at a time. Something that he said that I related to was sometimes you can't handle all of the details. Like if God were to say, hey, Laura, you're going to start real estate and you're going to get your tail handed to you, and it's going to be really hard and you're going to want to quit, and this are going to happen. You'd probably be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Do that. And so just sometimes knowing that we can't handle all of the details at once and we don't know the bigger picture and we just take that next leap of faith over and over, it adds up.
Yeah. That was great. The next speakers were the Brenham brothers. Is that right?
Benham. Yeah, Benham brothers.
Brenham. See?
They were awesome. I really loved their impact. Especially the fact that, it is actually biblical to create wealth. And it starts out in Genesis. talking about the resources that God gives us for wealth. And they named off like the four rivers that God created and gold and stuff like that. And it's like, wow, like he gives us all these things. And the reason for wealth is to provide and to promote. So I took a lot of notes on them. And another reason why I'm like jumping into this book right now, because I just found them to be very interesting and entertaining. They were hilarious.
Yeah,
But
they
yeah, what were
were.
your thoughts on it?
Well, they were like twin brothers, and again, another set of speakers I'd never heard of, but they actually, um, they were going to have an HGTV show called Flip It Forward, and they ended up getting canceled pretty much before it could even get started. They had started filming, but they had controversial Christian messaging online, and so they ended up getting canceled. And their book is actually, again, like Sarah said, it's all about wealth and kind of like, I think, why it's okay. I think it's permission to be wealthy, permission to value that because you can do so much with it. And the subtitle is a biblical blueprint to create and multiply your resources for kingdom impact. So, kind of going back to that same kingdom impact philosophy. And I know that there's a lot of people in our group that kind of share this. And I know Jeff, I don't even know if Jeff knows who these guys are, but Jeff kind of talks about that as of late, I've noticed. And I feel like if you don't lose sight of that and you keep that as your kind of your mission, then the success that you need will come. And like they thought that being on TV was where it was going to be at. And I think they also talked a little bit about that struggle between um like our earthly desires to be like famous and stuff like that and being careful. To me, that's what I took away, being careful not to let those sort of fame and fortune, internet famous or worrying about social media fame, that can't be your primary driver. It has to be if you're gonna be famous and you're gonna have the opportunities to be wealthy or be a star, using that for God's reasons and not for your own, vanity.
Yeah, they talk about when God gives you blessings, it's not so much that you can be blessed, it's so that you can be a blessing to someone else. And if you follow their story, they're both like successful professional baseball players. And then they got into real estate and then they got into entertainment and they were doing this show called Flipping Forward. But ultimately, they were in between this like, and they talk about this sometimes like we all learn, what is a good Christian life? And then we're around certain things that we're like, okay, I love you, but I don't love what you're doing, or I don't agree with what you're doing. And they say, sometimes even the church at this point, like, doesn't talk about certain things because it's uncomfortable or we don't want to offend anybody. And so they were openly talking about those things. And they said, you know, in order to be able to talk your truth and be able to help as many people as possible, you have to have so many resources to where you're financially independent of all of that. And the whole idea is it says the requirement for success is faithfulness. And what I really loved is they talked about, and I'm going to butcher this, but the story of the king who gives his three sons money or gold. And going back to Sarah's river analogy, that is God a God of scarcity? Or is he a God of abundance? And we all agree that he's a God of abundance. Like he wants us to be successful. He wants us to be able to provide for our family. He wants us to be able to support other people. And the story of the king is he gave, just an analogy, I'll say, he gave each of his kids $10,000 and left. And one kid was like, hey, I invested my $10,000 and I was able to, sell it to these many people and I was able to invest it and I got $30,000. And he's like, good job, son. And the other one was like, I invested it and I got $70,000. He's like, oh, good job, son. I lost a little, but then I regained it and all that. Well, the third son said, I was so afraid to lose your $10,000. I protected it and I kept it safe. And he was so proud that he kept it safe. And the dad was like, I'm so embarrassed. You are so lazy. It's such a disgrace. And the whole concept was you didn't even make an attempt to fail. You didn't give yourself a chance to fail or to learn or to multiply. You had such like a scarcity mindset. And so that was a big takeaway for me is don't have that scarcity mindset. Be okay to risk burning the boats, if you will, because that's how we're able to create our own income and not be dependent on people. And it says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, like no pressure. Not only are you just trying to pay your bills, but your children's children, right? Like your great grandparents kind of thing. And so that was a big thing for me is how do we create generational wealth and take back ownership and make an impact? And, I'm in Houston and I'm in real estate and there's such an opportunity. There's people who sell 100 million in production every year. And so I think we can all agree that opportunity is not the issue. There's opportunity out there for all of us. It's having the knowledge and the skill set and the connections and the network to be able to capitalize on that, to be able to provide and protect and promote.
Yeah, they also talked about that the river versus the bucket mindset, and that was all in like the creating passive income streams that keep flowing. And that kind of was tied into the whole like why did the HGTV show not kind of break them because they had created themselves passive income streams in a bunch of real estate, I think, and other aspects of their life that kind of to me correlated with all the opportunities that we have in real estate in general as being a realtor again like in if you're in a good market I mean a good city that has a lot of opportunities like Houston or a lot of the bigger Texas cities, a lot of cities around the country except maybe if you're in California, no offense if anyone on here is from California, that can be up and down and hard. We love you. But I'm just saying that there's opportunities like Amanda said everywhere, and if we create passive income streams that keep flowing, that river is going to always provide. There's always opportunity flowing down the river. And Amanda, you're probably, since you're doing all the analogies, when he talked about the bucket, um, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was kind of like that's limiting, right? And the river is continuous and it's always going to keep providing the opportunities. And so even though they had this giant opportunity to be multimillionaires and have all of this fame and exposure on this HGTV show, and that got ripped out from under them. They survived because they had created themselves kind of a bulletproof model. And we have such opportunity here with agent attraction and with the stock and all the things we've talked about on all these calls, y'all, that it's really crazy if you just build yourself like a broader picture and know that you've got all these backup plans. That leads to the whole, blessing others. And they said, God blesses you to bless others. And you can't do that if you're hanging all of your business on one vertical and it's just selling typical transactional real estate, because when the market takes a dip, you don't have anything to fall back on.
This is the story that they shared. And I was like, oh man, I'm doing it wrong because every year, what do? We say, what are your buckets? What is your lead generation
Mhm.
bucket? Tell me your buckets. And that's all we talk about. And you just picture someone scooping the water and walking and then dumping the water. And that is you trading your time for money over and over, trading your time for money. And it's great. You need your buckets. We all start with our buckets. But he said a river, which is stocks and revenue share and passive income and land and mineral rights and water rights. And like we need real estate, right? Your river, you can live off the dividends and it replenishes itself over and over and over. And if I'm talking about generational wealth and leaving a legacy, if I give my kids 5 buckets, and maybe a skill set, I'm teaching them how they can trade their time for money with my buckets that I gave them. But if I can build a river wide enough, that is really where you can lead, generational wealth. And so I left the meeting going, Jeff, we need to buy more land. We need to find land. I was just like driving him crazy about we need to do what we preach and buy more properties and learn how to land develop like my mom, she's on here, does. And there's so many opportunities that we have that we need to do to build our river so that we are financially stable to where, if, like you said, if a bucket fills up or gets a hole in it, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
And he said what I loved, and this is something I'm going to start using when I bring on new agents. He said his prayer was, God, if you show me how to build a business, impact others, and build wealth, I promise I'll do it. And that was impactful for me because sometimes we teach classes on all this stuff and we're like, this is how you do X, Y, and Z. And then we sit on our notes. And so I really feel like if we get that prompt to, do this work or to talk to that person or to recruit that person or to sell that house or whatever it is, if we get an opportunity where a door opens, even if we're scared, we need to make that promise that if the door opens, we do it, even if we're scared. So that was
Love that. Who's next?
one last note on them is they talk about how your work is your ministry. It's not that you have to be a minister and be in church to be a minister. Truly, as realtors, especially recruiting realtors or top producing realtors, We have the ability to touch more people, and not in a creepy way, but talk to more people than most preachers and pastors do. And so, knowing that a minister is not where you're placed, it's our mission and it's to provide and promote, we can take our work and our worship anywhere that. So for me, that was big because sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to bother that person. I know that they're happy where they're at, or oh, they've already got a person that they're working with. I know I'm taking the mindset of the more people I talk to and touch and reach out to, the more opportunities I have to minister. And so the bigger, even if it's scary and an uncomfortable thing, the bigger my group grows and the more people that I pour into, the more our message will be heard. So I'm
And
excited.
you can like the thing about it is, ministry is not always talking about Jesus or the Bible or quoting Bible verses, y'all. Like you're ministering to other agents by sharing your experiences with them, being somebody that they can lean on, being a set of ears and caring. We get so caught up in, I think, what we think things should be or what they are. And so Amanda, she can minister to me every single day by, a conversation that we have. And so don't underestimate the fruits of the spirit that God gave you and your ability to use those to impact people's lives every day. Not to say that, talking about the Bible or using the Bible or scripture or faithful conversation is not important, but it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be so in your face, I think, is another important thing to remember.
Yeah, and I think also took from them is like you're a minister right where you are, and you're on a mission to bring God glory, and your work is your worship. And it's to have a mindset like that that can drive you to multiply and magnify yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, our next guy was Nick, and I totally cried doing. He was so good. If what is his last name? You'll need to
Nick
look him up.
Fujisic or something.
Yeah, it's Vujicic or something. Like you're really close to it. I can barely pronounce it.
Like Nick, the guy.
Bujicic. Everyone
He's
needs to Google him.
Yes, he's a guy with no arms. And if you see him on Facebook, he's like has no arms, no legs. He was born like that. It was a birth defect. His parents were like told, hey, you kind of need to like abort this one. It's not going to be a normal. And she was like, I don't even know what normal is. Like, I think 8 out of 10 people can't retire right now, and they're all a hot mess, and they're all getting divorces. I don't want normal anyway. But she said, I don't know what God's plan is, but He does. And He had Nick anyway. And now Nick has got, there's his last name. Thank you. He's traveled around and spoken to more than 100 million people about his mission and his passions. And his whole thing is if God can use me, he can use anyone. And so whenever you're like, oh, I'm too new or I'm too insecure or I don't know enough or I'm too old or I'm too young or I'm too whatever, we're all in our own heads. If he can use Nick, who has no arms and no legs, to go and talk to like 100 million people, yeah, we're capable. So that he was really powerful. You guys need to look him up and watch his video.
Yeah, because he's like literally, they have to like set him on a table and then he's got this like little foot and he like walks on his like stump of a upper thigh and his one little foot. And he has got the most like positive, funny, self-deprecating, but not in like a you can tell he's trying to not be insecure way, like just very confident self-deprecation and humor. And it really humbles you. I mean, if you go watch, I mean, everybody on here, you need to go watch a video of him speaking. If you if you see someone like him talk and it doesn't make you realize to stop your fucking excuses and just do the damn thing, then you're an idiot. Like, I'm just saying, like, this guy is like, I mean, he talks about like funny things. Like, I mean, you imagine like if the house was burning down, could he even figure out a way to get out of the damn house? Like, if he needed to jump, like, he goes to the edge of the table, like, to make you scared, like he's gonna fall off. I mean, he was crazy, but
So they
um,
can in a leg to speak.
anybody that you have, I mean, like for me, my personal impact by listening to him was I have a nephew who was recently almost killed in a motorcycle accident this year, and he had two toes amputated. And he's 20, and that's hard. And he's had a really bad psychological recovery, unlike what we thought he was going to have. We thought he was such a bodybuilder, he was going to spring right back into caring about that. And so I used that as my personal impact from listening to him speak that, my nephew with his two missing toes feels like his life is over. And then you've got this man with no arms and no legs on stage. And anybody can make a correlation between his struggles and their struggles, whether it be physical or emotional or in your business. And he was just a powerful example of struggle and get over it, right?
He was big on there's no limits with God, like talking about being an abundance mindset, there's no limit. So for us to limit ourselves, it's really like he says, do you fear man or do you fear God? You know, and you have to really think about that. Like, what am I really afraid of? And I loved his parents more, almost as much as I loved him, is because they told him early on, they're like, you're special, but you're going to have to work harder. You're going to have to do things differently. And when he was 9, his dad told him, Nick, you need to create a business because no one's going to hire you. Like, no one's going to employ you. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, like he's 9. And he said, you need to find someone to be your hands and your feet. And that's something that I took away going, if y'all read the book, Who Not How, like if you have something that you're not great at, that's okay. Like hire someone to be your hands and your feet of whatever that analogy is for you. And that was big for me.
That was very powerful. I have like, let me give you some like direct kind of like bullets from what he talked about. So he said, and it might be a little bit redundant, but he said, courage doesn't replace fear, it overrides it. Many people have dreams but don't truly believe in them. Belief and action must align. Um, he he said, wealth is evil. The love of money distracts us from the purpose of money to serve others and glorify God.
And there's a book he recommended, and I'm a book junkie. I feel like I've heard all of them, but I have not heard of this one. And he said, and he's well read and well traveled. He said, The Money Secrets of the Rich by John Burley has been the most impactful book that he's ever read. As soon as he read it, he bought his first house when he was young. And he said he still lives by that today. And he's big on, oh, thank you for sharing that. He's big on really ultimately real estate is what a lot of these speakers came back to is I need to build wealth and I need to do that through real estate. And so I don't have that book yet. Jeff just downloaded it, but I think that that's something huge. He also talks about how a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And Proverbs 19:2 says, desire without knowledge is not good. And it just talks about how it's important to know our why of what we want to do and why we want to do it. But if we don't know how we're going to get there, our why is a little bit less powerful. And so he also says, if you don't know, you are not the investor, you are the product. And so really knowing, the real estate world or whatever world you're getting into and really knowing how you can make money and having that knowledge, because like we said, opportunity is out there. That will be, the control freak in me walked away with going, knowledge is good, skill sets are good. And the more we know about that, the more we can have our why.
Yeah.
And he says, if
Next.
you don't know, it's not your fault, it's your responsibility.
Mm, yeah.
And if it's important to you, you'll do it. A lot of us are like, oh, we don't have time to do it. And then we've spent 3 hours on Facebook, or we don't have time to do it. And then we're on TikTok for an hour. And so really, if it's important to us, if we say, hey, I'm getting this spiritual prompting to do X, Y, and Z, and I've made these goals for next year, we need to do it. They talk about stock. I'm going to like start playing in the stock market. I don't know anything about it. Jeff is kind of into that space, but they talked about that.
Are you going to do the trade class?
I think so, just to kind of learn about it. And they talk about whatever happens, if you either learn something or you either win or you learn something. And every time you have a challenge, even if it's scary, asking yourself what skill will come from this challenge. I feel like sometimes we're in the middle of life and we're like, okay, like God's about to teach me something or God's really testing me. And so I kind of have this mantra of, we're going through something in life so we can help someone else, which I think is helpful. But that was great. What skill will come from this challenge? Do y'all want to talk about Ed Mylett?
Yeah, he was amazing.
He had a book drop too called The Power of One More, which I think is really
Which that's the one he did. I read that. It's really good. It's really, really good. If anybody wants to somewhat know his story, Ed Mylett came from like an abusive upbringing, and he actually grew very after his father basically said, I've got one more day, like this is one more try to quit drinking and quit using and stuff like that. And it's always one more day, and it's always like one foot in front of the other is kind of what I always take from Ed Mylett. But I think a big part that I took from um what he said during that whole thing. Like I said, I love Ed Mylett. I deep dive into that book and just everything. But he did say, he's like, the Lord sows into each of us a piece of himself. And in life, you are most qualified to help the person you used to be. So I thought that was very interesting. And it's like, you always, it's all about confidence in that aspect. Like, sometimes I don't feel confident in doing anything. And it's just, you just like after LifeSurge, like I just let all that fear go. And, um, knowing that God is a piece of us, like he created us in his image and everything. And so it was just when he said that, I was like, I have to just keep acting for God. And it was such a good, Ed Mylett, like, bring your tissues if you ever listen to him, or his podcasts are amazing. So
Yeah.
like, of course I like sobbed almost the whole time, but
Well, the interesting thing though is what he said was like the person you used to be could be like a week ago. It could be a month ago. So the story he tells, and I don't want to give his whole like story away, but about his dad and him getting sober, sometimes the person that saves you, or when you save a person, it could be based on an experience you just had a month ago. So, like the guy who saved his dad had only been sober for a month, and he could speak from that experience because he had lived that life. And we think sometimes like we're not qualified to help other people because enough time hasn't gone by or we don't have enough experience. But I think for me, it's like you have been blessed with this journey in this past, and it doesn't have to be as profound as like I used to be an alcoholic. It can be that honestly, I'm cutting into like real estate, right? It could be I've been through that transaction and I can help another agent. You again, it goes back to, I mean, they all kind of built on each other. Like you just don't ever know the experience or the gift that God gave you and how you can share it with somebody else to help them at the place they're at in their journey. And don't be scared or don't be insecure that your experience isn't strong enough or deep enough that you can't use it to help other people.
And he said, you're one decision away from changing your life. And he talks about the ripple effect of if that guy wouldn't have helped my dad, even though he had only been sober for 31 days, he didn't know the right thing to say. He didn't have the experience. He wasn't surely confident that he was totally going to stay sober. But that went on to help my dad. And then I was able to have another 15-year relationship with him. And now I'm able to travel the world and share that story. And so it's such a huge ripple effect of people helping each other. And that was something huge I took away was we're able to help the person we used to be because I have to go back and go, okay, what were my life experiences that I maybe wasn't super proud of or didn't love that situation when I was in it, but now I can relate to that person and say, hey, look at me now and look where I'm headed and look what I'm doing. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. And so I feel like, and now when we're in the middle of a life situation, we're like, okay, we're going to learn this and we're going to get through this and we can help someone else going through that. So I think that that's really powerful. And we all have different life experiences that qualify us to help all different types of people. So.
well, a big part of Ed Mylett too, like, and I know he barely touched on this, but he was talking about how his dad, like, he, a lot of what Ed Mylett preaches is like envisioning yourself and in every in like the aspects of your life, like basically. And so I think about it. His dad every day would like wear the golf polo, the white golf polo and stuff. And he would lay there and he was like for hours, he would envision playing golf with his son and stuff like that. And it just makes me think it's like in order to succeed and in order to better yourself and these skills that you have and what you do in life, like you need to take the time to actually envision yourself going through this, whether it's a listing presentation or speaking with a buyer or going to the closing table or any of that other stuff, or just spending time with your family in general, or speaking in public, envisioning yourself and practicing it mentally instead of physically as well, which physically practicing is great too, but him speaking on that, and then just it was just amazing to think of like the mindset that you need to have, and also to bring all those qualities that you gain and bring them to the kingdom of God and everything too. So it was pretty neat.
He had a pretty sassy takeaway with sports. Like there was a lot of like political sports jokes and things that I told Jeff, and of course it was on Sunday, and he was like, okay, I love my sports. But he talks about how, the whole concept was building wealth for your family and building wealth for generations and, building something for your last name, if you will. And he's like, I see so many men walking around going, we're up 2 points and we won and we did this. And their whole weekends, are all about the sports thing. And he's like, men walk around with other men's families' last names on their back of their shirt. And they're so proud of that guy. And they're like,
like they're actually winning something, like bullshitting themselves that we're spending all this energy cheering for another man's team, and at the end of it, you're not winning shit for your family.
yeah, so that was the
Yeah.
concept was get in the game for your family. And they said
Yeah.
it's okay to be a fan, but just realize that you might want to be that guy, but that guy doesn't want to be you. And so really pouring into your skill sets and your knowledge and your experience to build something for your family that you want your family. Yeah, we want White Spear on the back of our t-shirt, if you will, rather than a sports thing. So that was a big like, oh my gosh, gut punch for some of us are distracted more than focused. Sports are
Yeah.
fine, but just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Some of the, again, bullet point key takeaways were from him were serve others to expand your influence, discipline multiplies results, mindset drives momentum, and faith is a success multiplier. So
He also
that
had
whole that one more concept too, I think was just like make one more call, do one more act of kindness, take one more step of faith, just one more. It doesn't take more. And it kind of goes back to that whole like, you might get the path, but you might only get like one stepping stone lit up at a time and just do that one next thing.
He says a hero is not someone who's perfect. A hero is someone who's changed. And it says, he said, I don't think you can change. I know you can change. And his thing was going through it, talking about his dad. And so I think we get to decide who are we going to be. And he kept overly saying, I don't care what you've done. I care who you are. And I think that was really powerful.
Yeah.
And he's the one who was talking. He wasn't the one who was talking about the narrow road. It was somebody else, but he was talking about the road that God gives you and everything. There's reasons behind like every single thing that you do within your life. And his road that he lives on now, like he lives across the street from like the Kardashians or something like that. And he lives down the road from a doctor. Well, his sister, um, which he doesn't talk about this in this book either. So I can say this. His sister actually developed blindness from diabetes, and he he got upset because his sister was like really down and everything, and so she left, or she was like so upset that she was contemplating like her life in general, and he was up. He got the call from his mom that his mom was upset, so he went for a walk down his road, and it was like all of a sudden, like God was talking to him and he's like, go knock on Tom's door or whatever. And he goes and he knocks on his neighbor's door at like 9:45 at night. Like he jumps the fence, knocks on his neighbor's door at 9:45 at night. And lo and behold, his neighbor is the doctor who created the machine to fix the blindness
Diabetic
in people.
retinopathy.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know what it is, diabetic retinopathy,
Yeah.
and was able to get his sister in to see him and then fix it and everything. So it's an incredible story, but God has a purpose in everything we do, even the walks that we take at night. So it was pretty neat.
Talk about
Yeah.
listening to his prompting, like, okay, go knock on this guy's door. Like, and then there's like that, like obvious, what is it called? Like that you're not going to know what to say or do. Like that's going to be next. He also talks about something that I talked to my daughter about yesterday, and it says, the world will give you what you're willing to accept. Do you know your worth? And we talk about, having boundaries and standards and quality of life. And I mean, of course, she's like, well, instead of eating a Kit Kat, I want to eat Godiva. Like, right? She associated it with chocolate. But I mean, even like, what we're willing to put up with in our lives and what we're going to do for our business and what kind of clients we want to work with and what kind of people we want to work with. But that was really powerful to me because, we talked about some people who were making minimum wage and some people who make $1 million a year. And sometimes they're not any smarter. They're just doing a different path and they've just, have a different experience. But that was powerful. The world will give you what you're willing to accept. Do you know?
Okay, but he also, and we're going to run out of time on this, but like he also talked a lot about his own like IQ not being high. And like every Christmas, his family of four, they do like the IQ test, and he's always the dumbest one. But like he's been so successful. And I mean, the point there is just like you don't have to be smart to be successful. You don't, you can have good habits and you can listen when the Holy Spirit prompts you. And you don't have to be the smartest person from an IQ standpoint. And, he was told when he was younger by a counselor, basically like, you're an idiot. I don't remember the exact of the story, but
College is
like
not for you.
what?
College is not for you.
College is not for you. And so it was interesting. And I will say this, like I have a college degree, Amanda has a college degree. I don't use my college degree. Amanda doesn't use her college degree. We know so many realtors who don't have college degrees, or if they do, they don't use them. And to me, the takeaway there is like, we don't have to be the smartest people to be wealthy and to be successful in many different ways in this industry. So just remember that. He really did basically say like I'm kind of a dumbass, but look at me.
And he also talks about words or prophecy, and I think we forget this a lot. We're like, oh, I'm not smart, or I'm not quick, or I can't do that, or those are for those types of people. And I feel like we really like fake it till you make it is real. Like words or prophecy, we need to put that out there and have positive things, and we're going to do big things. And he talks about how God will ask, "What did you do with the hours I gave you?" So, Lord forbid, imagine that you got hit by a bus tomorrow and you're at the pearly gates, if you will, and he asked, what did you do with the hours I gave you? And I'm like, God, I scrolled through Facebook, I watched Judge Judy, like, like really think about what we're spending our time on. And he talks about how where you spend your time is where the heart is. And so if we say something's important to us and we set this goal and we want to, help this single mom buy her first house or take her kids to Disneyland or whatever, and then we go, oh, it didn't work out. Like, where did you spend the hours that I gave you? And that was something that really hit me hard. And then he talked about when you are successful, money magnifies people. It's not a bad thing. Great people with a lot of money are going to do great things. And people who were kind of jerks before that have a lot of money are just going to be bigger jerks. And so we don't have to have this mindset if it's a bad thing. It's opportunity for us.
Who do we want to do? We're only going to have time for one more. I mean, we can always keep going and then send the recording out if people need to drop, or what do you want to do?
Okay, we can kind of do some like nuggets. Like I know James Smith, I loved. You guys should look him up. He's brilliant. But he talks about how 38% of divorces are caused by money. So like we need to get a handle on that. And he says, stop taking advice from people who don't have the business giving you advice. So if they haven't already done what you want to do, maybe don't take advice from them. And he talks about how opportunity is everywhere, where he hears, oh, Longview's getting a Walmart. Well, great. I'm going to buy 3 acres across from Walmart and I'm going to sell it to La Quinta kind of thing. And so real estate was a big thing. And what I loved about him is he said, I don't see what is, I see what could be in people, property, and in life. And that was something powerful of just seeing the best in opportunities of what could happen or like I'm always looking for future leaders, right? Like who could be a great leader? Who's going to pour into people? And he does that in real estate as well. Michael Jr., the comedian, was great. He pretty much talked about how conflict was a good thing. It was a blessing because without it, you can't have resolution. And it's almost like if you said, I don't know, I sell 100 houses. Like that sounds cool, right? But if you went through like I was raised by a single mom and I had lived in a box and I, started out with nothing and then I grew and then I sold 10 houses and then 15 houses and then 50 and then we picked up a hedge fund. And like if you went through the whole story of the conflict and the story and all the stuff and then you got to the resolution of and now I sell 100 houses, it just hits differently. And they said every time you don't talk about the conflict, almost like, when a husband and wife fight, we're always like, oh, compromise, fight a compromise. That's not a good thing. It's almost like sweeping it under the rug. And the more you do that, the more lumps you have under your rug until eventually you've got a big lumpy rug and you trip over all your stuff and it's just messy. And so embrace conflict because it's actually a beautiful thing and it shows and tells a story. And then that's how you get resolution.
Yeah, he said conflict brings revelation.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then last one, I guess we can do, are you saying yes or are you living smaller than God intended? That one's like, oh, it's good. And then John Maxwell, I really loved because he always talks about leadership. It's always like, you can do everything. And instead, he talked about failure, which I think was really interesting, and how you can receive an ROI, return on investment, on failure. And for me, and I've done this in coaching all the time, what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail, right? We all ask that question. How about this question? What would you do if, when you failed, you knew you would learn something that would help you be successful the next time? And so he talks about failing forward. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And the biggest thing was there's the difference between a good miss and a bad miss. If you aim for something and you miss it and you adjust, and then you aim for something again, that's a good miss. If you aim for something and you miss it and you go, oh, Sarah was distracting me and Lillian was talking and Laura, like, and you make excuses, that's a bad miss. And so we're all going to fail and miss and have issues and all of that. But if we fail forward and adjust, that's part of life and that's a good thing.
Yeah, he did say, growth depends on how you respond to your mistakes and embrace hard. Everything worthwhile is uphill. Marriage, business, growth, purpose. You can't go uphill with downhill habits,
Ooh.
which was pretty good.
Ooh. And speaking of uphill, he said, you'll never bump into someone who's at the top of a mountain. You're looking up, going, oh my gosh, I want to be there, who got there by accident. Like nobody has a book called Accidental Accomplishments. Everyone at the top of the hill knows exactly what they did to get there. That's
Right. He said like you don't find the person standing at the top of the mountain that's like, how did I get here? I
true.
don't know. I don't know how I got here. If somebody busted their ass to get up there, they're going to tell you every single hard work, everything that they did to get there. And the point is that we all get where we're at successfully with hard work. There's no this just happened to me, right?
If you know it's
Yeah.
going to be difficult, then it's easy. If you think it'll be easy,
Yeah.
it'll be hard. He talks about someone came up to John Maxwell and said, I want to do what you do. I'm going to be a speaker. And John's like, you are? And he's like, yeah, it's going to be great. And he said, I've spoken on stage 14,000 times. I've had 14,000 scripts in front of people. And he said, everyone wants to do what I do, but no one wants to do what I did.
Yeah, to get here.
Yes, if you're
Yeah.
willing to do what I did to get here, you can do what I do. But
So yeah, so it was like, yeah, it was really, he put it brilliantly. I have a recording of him. If anybody wants it, it was good.
but
You
that
want to do what I do, but do you want to do what I did?
And so that's something to kind of
Yeah.
think of. If you're in the middle of something and you see someone at the top of the mountain, you're like, I want to be that person. I want to do those things. Think about all the things that they did to do that. And then just know that you're on the right path. You're taking one step at a time. Stay positive and know that it's the right thing to do, but it takes a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was information overload, I'm sure. Do y'all have any ahas or nuggets or questions for us? It has me pumped up and energized for next year for sure.
I don't have 17 pages of notes, but I have three.
You go, girl.
Good.
What was a takeaway for you, Dana?
I think the biggest one that one of the very first ones I wrote down, don't hesitate, take a leap of faith. Say what your heart tells you to.
I love that.
And I think compassion goes a long way as well in all this because nobody knows what demons people are fighting on the inside. And I think sometimes just saying to a perfect stranger, hey, I like your shoes, or that's a cute shirt, or whatever. They could be having a really terrible day, and that one thing turns it completely around for them and pushes them to do better things.
I love that. That's so true. Like we try to like we should, but we dwell on the negative. Oh, she said this or she said that, and sometimes just somebody popping over and go, "Oh my gosh, you look so great today!" Like we need that. So women are usually pretty good about that, but sometimes we're also kind of fierce, and so that could be a challenge this week. Is to random. My mom used to do that growing up. Random acts of kindness was like a challenge every day. She'd find a way to do a random act of kindness.
I'm
I
doing
think
it for Christmas.
I
I
love
I think to me one of the things too that was profound was that all of these people were hard workers. They were all hard workers. They all started with their kind of spirit of having work ethic from the time a lot of them were children. Like Willie Robinson talked about that, how he was like reselling candy from the time he was in like fifth grade on the bus, and again, he's not probably known for his intellect per se. I mean, I think he is actually a really smart guy, but that's not what comes out of him first and foremost. And so, hard work pays off. Don't work for another another man's team, another family's team. I mean, that illustration alone, I think, again, no offense to the guys out there because y'all are usually the ones with the jerseys on, not to say that women don't, but it was really like the the picture there was who are you working for every day, and what is your time and energy going toward? Is it going toward things that are growing your business, or things that are not growing your business? Are they um on your journey that God has kind of set you on? Are you listening to what the Holy Spirit is telling you to do? He's not telling you to waste your time death scrolling on YouTube. I mean, that's not of God, use that energy and time. If you're going to be on there, I mean, my God, at least be listening to something that's going to enrich your business mind, or your life, or your faith.
That was something else. It said God uses ordinary people who choose extraordinary obedience.
I love that.
Yeah.
That was a good one to pin at the end. I love that.
Yeah. And then our business is our platform for impact, not just our income. So we're really seeing in those eyes, every time you hesitate to make a call or follow up with someone, like that could be a call that you need to make or an impact you need to make. Does anyone else have any ahas or takeaways? I'm going to call Suzanne and Lillian out because I know you and I can. Love you.
I think the part, about, sometimes it's okay to be scared. I'm working on something right now and I'm 57 and I'm really scared, but nobody knows it but me. But it's my biggest project ever and it's going really well and everything's coming into place and it's just great. And it's the biggest thing I've ever done, but I'm scared. And so sometimes only you're scared, right? We feel like, we're so below somebody else or real little or something, but only we feel that way. The other people don't see us that way.
I love that. They said something about just recognize your inner coward and then let God pull out your inner lion. It's kind of fierce because the fear never goes away. Just the courage kind of oversees that. And you have to think, like for you, what you're doing now is the biggest thing you've ever done, but you've had 15 years of experience leading up to this, and so you're ready for
And
it.
I'll tell you guys that I was only allowed to go to school till the 5th grade. And then my mom married this man and they put us in a private school for 6th grade. And then they decided that we were going to be homeschooled. My mom only went to school to the 6th grade. So I didn't, our homeschool was really working on the farm and cleaning my dad's barber shop. And we didn't really go to school. So when I was 17, I went and got my GED and I passed in like the 86th percentile. So I told my mom, I was like, I think if I'd have been, I could have gone to school, I'd have done really well. But then when I was 30, I went to go take classes at SMU and they hired me to be an assistant. And then I just grew and grew from there. So, like I said, it really doesn't matter. We all have somewhere that we came from. But people would never know that I went to school to like the 6th grade and I'm doing 150-acre land development and it's going wonderful. And the people around me I work with are wonderful. So we do have to have a path to get to the top. Let's keep going.
Love that. Thank you. Lillian, you want to share anything? Any ahas or notes?
The main takeaway I have is I'm a very introverted person and we all have purpose and like we all have like meaning and you just have to take that step forward even if you're like nervous, even if you're not wanting to do it, you just have to do it anyways. And then, in 10 years from now, I'll look back and be like, wow, like let me share this with everyone I know. Like that's the main takeaway I had.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. We will share this recording if you guys have any questions or want our notes or anything. Thank you, Sarah and Laura, for sharing this. This is our last meeting of the year. We're going to take the next couple ones off just to get ready for Christmas and New Year's, and we'll hit the ground running in January. And it's just such an honor to be in business with y'all and to get to pour into y'all. And we're all learning and growing together. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Y'all
Thanks
have a
so
great
much.
Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
Happy New
Christmas,
Year,
everyone.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Merry
Yeah.
Christmas.